Díomh Green Ushla agus Fáilte. Hello and welcome. It's Misha Amy, the crafty Kylock, and today I'm going to be talking about revolutionary women. So if you're new to my channel, I am Amy, an Irish pagan witch and student of history who makes content about Irish history, folklore, food and magic. When I started this channel last year, I started it with a series called Real Revolutionaries, Irish Women in History, which is looking at Irish women who were particularly revolutionary, either in the revolutionary period at the start of the 20th century in Irish history, or just in general revolutionary in their own way. Today I am going to be talking about two sisters from Wicklow who may be better known by their brother, Charles Steward Parnell, but enough has been done on Charles Stewart. I will be talking today about Anna and Fanny. Before I get into talking about the two sisters, I'm just going to give a little bit of context about the Irish National Land League, because I will be talking about the Ladies' Land League later on. So the Irish National Land League was founded in 1879 by Charles Steward Parnell, and it was under the vision of Michael Davitt. This organisation sought to campaign against landlord-ism in Ireland and also focused on Connacht, Munster and Leinster, not really dealing with Ulster all that much. They provided support for tenants facing evictions. They also organised protests, takeovers of properties and also landlord assassination. They absorbed a previous association called the Central Tenants Defence Association, and the Land League was also instrumental in the land wars between 1879 and 1882. The Land League also introduced the term boycotting. The term is named after Captain Hugh Cunningham Boycott. He was an English-born land agent in County Mayo who was the first notable target of the Land League and their policies. After the introduction of the Land Act in 1881, the British government imprisoned many of the Land Leaguers, which is where the Ladies' Land League took over a little bit in Ireland, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit. When Parnell was released in 1882 from prison, he dissolved both the Irish National Land League and the Ladies' Land League. So that's a little bit of a background on the National Land League, but I'm now going to talk about Fanny, the first of the sisters I'll be discussing. So Frances Isabel Parnell, otherwise known as Fanny, was born in County Wicklow in 1848. She was educated in fine art in Paris. However, her main creative outlet was actually poetry, and her poetry later in life would gain her much recognition and admiration from Irish nationalists. During the Franco-Prussian War, Fanny and her mother Delia were involved in the American Ladies Committee in Paris, and they would have provided aid and nursing and fundraising for efforts there. Fanny received really high praise for her poetry, as I've already said, and at the age of 15 she was first published in the Boston Pilot. After the death of her uncle in 1874, she and her mother moved to New Jersey in the United States, and that's where she started her political career. In the United States, Fanny and her mother aided fundraising for famine relief and also organised for her brother's tour of the US. Two of Fanny's best known works are The Hovels of Ireland, published in 1880. This discussed the injustices faced by the Irish peasant class and also criticised her own class. It's really important to note that Fanny and Anna were part of the ascendancy, were part of the wealthier class. So the fact that they were advocating for the rights of peasants and for the working class was revolutionary in itself. Her poem Hold the Harvest was another famous work of hers, and Michael Davitt lauded it as the equivalent of Ireland's Marseillaise, which is a French revolutionary and rebellious song. However, when her brother Charles Stewart was on trial for the Land League's actions in Ireland, Hold the Harvest was used against his defence, and it was said that that was being used to incite violence in Ireland against landowners. She was one of two vice presidents of the Ladies' Land League in the United States, with her mother Delia being president. She continued to fundraise and promote the work of the Land League throughout her life, but despite her patriotic and nationalist verse, she was an advocate for home rule and also against violence. And Fanny very much stayed within the confines and the expectations of ladies at the time, and very much was conventional in how she engaged with politics, sticking to fundraising, to holding meetings and to organisation rather than actively getting involved herself. Fanny died of a heart attack in July 1882. Fanny's sister Anna, who was born Anna Catherine Parnell in May 1852, was the 10th child of her parents. She also moved with her family to Paris in 1865, but not much is actually recorded of her time there. However, it's very clear, that light isn't great, that's better. But it's very clear from my reading on Anna that she really did not appreciate and did not submit to the expectation of a woman's place, and also the type of mental inferiority that religious authority was declaring of women. This kind of rhetoric, and also women that simply submitted to this type of expectation, were despised by Anna. So Anna, in defiance of the expectations placed on women, moved back to Dublin in 1870 and pursued art studies. She then moved to London in 1875 to continue her studies, and at the same time her brother Charles Steward had become Member of Parliament for County Meath. So while Charles was in Westminster, Anna spent her time in the Ladies' Gallery. She subsequently wrote about her experiences there in a pamphlet entitled How They Do in the House of Commons, Notes from the Ladies' Cage. After this, she moved to the US in 1879 to help her mother and sister with both the formation of the Ladies' Land League and also the organisation of their brother's trip throughout the United States. In comparison to Fanny, who did subscribe to the conventions of being a woman at the time and the expectations that came with, Anna very much had more of an awareness and was more outspoken about how this wasn't okay, and she really didn't hide her resentment of it. In 1880, after the Ladies' Land League was established in the United States, she moved back to Dublin, and 1 year later she accepted the presidency of the Ladies' Land League in Ireland. I'll talk about the Ladies' Land League in just a second, but in 1882, when Charles Stewart was released from prison and dissolved the league, Anna and him had no further contact. She moved to Cornwall after this, changed her name, and lived the remainder of her life in poverty and anonymity. In 1904, she wrote an account of the experience called The Tale of a Great Sham, which was eventually published in 1986. She occasionally returned to Irish politics to give support for causes like Iníncha na hÉireann, and on one occasion to support a Sinn Féin candidate for election in Dublin. She tragically died in a swimming accident in 1911, still under her new name, so not much was written about her. To talk then about the Ladies' Land League both in the US and Ireland, on the 6th of September 1879, Fanny Parnell wrote a letter to the Boston Pilot, and she was requesting fundraising for famine relief back in Ireland. An excerpt from the letter says, "Could not a subscription be raised to help the most distressing cases in some of the western counties? Will not the Irish here, who can afford it, give something from their conveniences here to help our countrymen in their terrible need?" Fanny here is appealing to the Irish Americans, the diaspora who had left the country for a better life in America during An Gcirta Mór, the Great Irish Famine. After organising for Charles's tour across the US, Fanny consulted with Michael Davitt, who had helped raise the Land League back in Ireland, and established the Ladies' Land League of America. At the time, the Irish World newspaper provides the best Land League coverage, and in their reports showed that there was 150 branches of the Ladies' Land League established all across the United States by 1881. These are just the numbers that we have because these 150 branches would have been the ones in contact with the Irish World newspaper. It's noted that in the 11 months of 1881 that the Ladies' Land League were operational, they raised over $15,000. So $15,000 in 1881 would be worth over $400,000 today. So speaking a little bit about the conventions of ladies in society, because women would have been very much involved in church fundraisers and community projects like that, their skills were very much transferable into political fundraising. This also may have been a more acceptable way to enter political activism, given that it didn't involve taking up arms, which would have been seen as a more manly pursuit. And so in helping with fundraising and organising and promotion and the sharing of political ideology, women weren't directly challenging the authority of men. But fast forward 100 years later and we most certainly are. In addition to having the political activism, they also at the time would have been seeing more work outside of the home in textile industries and industries that had been booming. So women then had the validation and proof to show that their value was not solely confined to domestic duties. Another factor of the Ladies' Land League that helped to get more women involved was their low membership fees. And this is something that you also see with Cumann na mBan and Inínigh na hÉireann, where the membership was not solely focused on the upper or wealthier classes. So women in a variety of economic situations were able to contribute and to become active in politics. And in their membership with the Ladies' Land League, this didn't just affect their point of view and perspective on the politics in Ireland, but also the politics that was in the United States, which then followed on to interest not only in land ownership, but also civil rights. Following the success of the Ladies' Land League in the US, Fanny Parnell wrote to The Nation, a Dublin-based Irish newspaper, to suggest that a Ladies' Land League was needed in Ireland. As I mentioned, Anna Parnell accepted the presidency in 1881, and establishing the Ladies' Land League in Ireland marked the first formal introduction of women into political activism. They provided financial aid and alternative accommodation to evicted tenants. They also ran public meetings, tried to promote and introduce Land League policy throughout Ireland, and also distributed publications such as United Ireland. Although they got a lot of praise from the likes of Michael Davitt, who said that they were honester and more sincere than the men, after Charles was released from prison, the mismanagement of funds was blamed on Anna, even though the funds were there to help the people. So I think I detect a slight bit of misogyny from Charles Stewart in blaming his sister, who was continuing his work while he was imprisoned, which is a bit cheeky. But in the dissolution of the Land League, that ended the political career of Anna and Fanny Parnell. So the work of Anna and Fanny Parnell in spearheading the involvement of women in nationalist efforts and political activism is not often talked about when historians are looking at the land wars and the active fight against landlordism in Ireland. Certainly in looking into this myself, I found out about Anna and Fanny through one sentence and then ended up focusing on that sentence to really explore the role of women in the fight against landlordism, which is something I didn't know even existed. So now I know, and now you know. This is really important in terms of both regional history of them being women from Wicklow and the role they played in helping to include more women in political activism in Ireland. And without a doubt, this would have gone on and really influenced Inínigh na hÉireann, who Anna Parnell particularly had come and spoken for, and also Cumann na mBan and the fight of revolutionary women during the Easter Rising and the Civil War. The Ladies' Land League and its establishment really set the precedent in Ireland for the inclusion of women in nationalist efforts and in political activism in general. And that is something you can see echoed with Inínigh na hÉireann and also with Cumann na mBan. So I hope you enjoyed that video, just a little coverage on Anna and Fanny Parnell and also the Ladies' Land League in general. If there's anything I mentioned in this video that you'd like me to talk more about, let me know in the comments as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share if you did like the video and you want to see more of this content. Check out my other playlists as well. I am uploading a lot more regularly over the last 2 months, so expect more and more content on this and similar and other types of Irish history, culture and magic. I particularly have a lot of fun content planned for March, so you don't want to miss that, believe me. But until next time, Sinead, that is it. Slán go fóill, I will see you soon.